Hey guys, Cam McLellan.
Lewison.
Welcome to today's Wealth WOD.
What are we talking about?
Starting up businesses. A couple of people over the time and a couple of people recently have emailed in saying, what's your advice on small business and your experience starting small businesses?
Let's start with, I'll tell you the number of businesses Cam and I started unsuccessfully before one worked, and maybe talk about the dramas we had in the one that worked. So here's what we did. We started a cleaning business. Didn't get off the ground. So we're working full time at the time, decided it'd be easy to go and call on businesses, engage cleaners, and they can come and clean the premises.
So we'd own the contracts and then we'd subcontract those out. That was the plan.
No, it didn't work.
Didn't work.
We started a window cleaning business. So we go around to small shops and we'd say, do you want someone to come and clean your windows?
Same concept.
Doesn't work.
Didn't work.
We started a recruitment business.
That cost us just under $1 million.
Yeah. I'll give you some advice. Don't start a recruitment business in the GFC.
Or 3 months before the GFC.
We started an IT business. That one was okay, but not hugely successful. Okay.
It was a fast-growing business, but we weren't passionate about it, to be honest.
And we started a hairdressing business because
that's right.
We like hairdressing, so that one didn't work either. So there's been some failures there, but one thing we knew was that we wanted to be in business. But one thing enabled us to go and make some bad decisions, I guess. What was that, Kim?
It actually came down, and it might seem ridiculous, we're just telling about the amount of businesses we've failed in first of all. So we've also been successful in quite a number of businesses. I read in old Rich Dad, Poor Dad's way back when, sitting in a pool in Malaysia, and I read through and it said, if you start 10 businesses, you only need one of them to be successful, and you made it. That was true, except for the fact that depends on how much money you've got to put into those businesses, how much you can afford to lose. And this is where those initial business failures, we wanted to get into business for some reason, we just thought that was the way to go. All those initial business failures gave us the knowledge when we cranked up our telco business and we built a huge property portfolio each, without big noting. We had a very substantial property portfolio each with a large amount of equity. There was times there, I remember down at Felicity and I were living in Elwood.
Oh, the cafe day.
Yeah, Beth and Elle came down and we were literally, I was nearly, head in hands type stuff. This is early years, probably 5 years into the business. We had probably 25 staff, reasonable turnover, but our measured growth wasn't occurring. We were growing so fast and our overheads were so high that while the business was really strong on revenue, our cash flow was really affected. So cash is king. If you haven't got cash in the bank to pay your bills, you're in strife. We'd poured money into this business multiple times, reinvested all our revenue back into the business, plus taken money out of our property portfolios, and we got to the stage where we had a huge amount of money owing through, we had probably $1 million worth of accrued revenue waiting to come in, but we had no cash in the bank. We couldn't continue on. So we're literally sitting there going, do we just shut up shop and get that $1 million and wipe out, or do we put more money into it? And we thought we'd give it one more go. So rolled back into work on the Monday. Staff and customers knew no different, but we poured more money into it and we just tightened right up. We scaled down a little bit and we held tight for a couple of years while we really built up. And that was the old thing about building the sales model first, then your operations, reshaping your portfolio management or customer service, account management, gearing up sales again, reinventing your operational. So I suppose the big thing out of it, the two things that I probably want to put out, starting a small business, a lot of people think small business is a way to go. Don't go and buy yourself a job, because there's huge risk. That's the first thing. So having a business that's scalable, I wouldn't start a business unless it's at least going to be able to deliver me 10 mil bottom line. So if it can't do that, then it's not scalable in my eyes. So going out and buying something that might turn over $1 million and deliver you 200,000, bottom line, is basically like buying yourself a job. There's
no point buying yourself a job for the added risk you take on.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely no way. And that was one thing we learned from all the failures, I guess. And I'll go back to the failures in that by the time one worked, we learned so much through the journey. There's no way, looking back, any of those early businesses could work. Didn't understand cash flow, didn't understand operational efficiency, didn't understand process in the business, didn't understand the whole multitude of things that need to happen to make something a success. And today, people come and see us and they'll say, look, I've got a great business idea, what about this? And I'll be honest, some of them are great business ideas, but I know within 5 to 10 minutes of talking to someone, if their idea will work. And the reason I know it is because we've been through it, and you can see issues and holes in certain things, because a great idea doesn't equal a great result.
It's usually their skill set to execute the great idea, to be honest. If you haven't had, and I think you hit a nail on the head then when you mentioned you've got to understand balance sheets, profit and loss, cash flow. So you need to have exposure within an industry of those things. I always said if starting a business idea, I'd rather, in our telco business we started and were hugely successful, we had a market that was that big and we wanted to take a percent to start with, and then we just wanted to grow that percentage. People who want to reinvent something new and start a whole market have a much less chance of being successful. It's really hard to create a market. It's a lot safer to get a market that's quite large and just do something better than everyone else and take over that market and then own it. So, Cameron?
I don't think you can take me seriously with the moustache, but after running businesses for the best part of 15 years now, one thing I know is the importance of process. And that's like I say, I can tell in 10 minutes if something will work. So what I do, I can walk into a business, and you should all do this, walk into any business. So everything they do in that business, at some point, had a process built to make that work in the business. So think of anything. Think of someone placing a sales order. Whose job is it to take the sales order and put it in the system? Whose job is it to take it from the system and take it to warehouse? Whose job to pack the box in warehouse? Whose job to place the order? Every one of those things, at some point, had someone sit down and create a process to make it work.
It's a really, really good point. Elle and I invest in two things. We invest in really good people and we invest in measured process. So every part of our business, while we might seem quite casual and talking to you guys on video, every little part of our business has a written process in line and everyone follows that process. As a collective, they choose to improve that process and create our and change our standard operating procedures.
So this is the Property WOD, guys. So if we go right back through all that, one thing would not have been able to start again. We would not have got to where we've gotten to without to do the businesses without property behind us.
Yeah.
Having property, and we talked before about having a buffer, using a buffer. Well, we chose to use our buffer to get some businesses off the ground. Now, if that was money out of our own pockets, we'd be living in a gutter now, because that much money has been wasted. But what the property portfolio's enabled is that we had constant growth happening in the portfolio. We could leverage, we could gear it, we could use it. That enabled us to open some more doors. So the key thing for anyone thinking about starting a business, in our opinion, is go and start a property portfolio. And I'll teach you a few things. I'll teach you management of an asset. I'll teach you managing your portfolio. I'll teach you cash flow management, balance sheet management. I'll teach you a whole multitude of things. But most of all, it'll build you a buffer and an asset base you can use to go and try some other things.
I'm not saying don't do it, just understand the risks you're taking, and as we always said, the return back on your dollar. So, as I said, compare it to property. If I put in $50,000 into buying a property, leverage the bank's money, what sort of return am I going to get on an ongoing basis? It's back on your money, so property might grow at 8%, but if you're putting in only 10% of the money, you're getting a much larger return, as opposed to putting in $50,000 into a business which might return you $100,000 a year, but the risks are huge. I know which one I'd choose.
Can I just say before we go, people in the office are calling me a Mario brother. I don't think it's fair, but this is November. Have a good day.
Catch you guys.